More than 24 hours after an ICE agent shot and killed Renee Good, a polarizing, emotional debate continues to play out in the United States. You'll hear some of that in just a moment, but let's begin with that bystander video of the shooting. You can see immigration agents, ICE, walking towards the woman's SUV. They yell at her to get out and pull on the vehicle's door.
No! No!
But she drives away, and a second officer fires into the car. A lot more videos caught by witnesses have surfaced showing different angles of that same incident. All of this footage now key to investigators trying to determine what happened and whether it was a criminal act by police or a justified use of force. Legal questions that almost immediately became political.
This was an act of domestic terrorism.
An agent recklessly using power.
It's a tragedy of her own making.
People in positions of power have already passed judgment.
That kind of blunt rhetoric has many questioning whether the federal investigation can actually be fair and independent, with the shooting fueling outrage at the Trump administration's immigration crackdown. Okay, let's talk more about that investigation with Michael Harrigan, a retired supervisory FBI agent, and he joins us from Washington. Thank you very much for speaking with us. How do you think investigators will be able to do their job in a case like this with so much attention, but more to the point where the president, the vice president, the secretary of Homeland Security have already clearly drawn conclusions?
Well, Ian, what we're looking at here is with these kind of cases, you're going to have the FBI come in. They're going to be the lead agency to run the investigation. Anytime there's an assault on a federal officer as part of the case, which would have been the woman driving the car towards the agent, the FBI will be the prime agency here. So one thing good you have here is that the agency, the FBI, will bring in investigators from out of state, and they're going to be looking at this, the facts. They're going to be drawing, the videos. They're going to be cataloging those. They're going to be doing, interviews of the agent who allegedly shot the woman, other agents there, witnesses. They're going to be gathering all this together, and the best they can do is to put this together in an impartial way and try to establish the facts here. So when they do these kind of investigations, which I've done personally in the past as an FBI agent, it's done with a very high level of professionalism, and you tune out all the political voices, either local political voices or national political voices are completely tuned out here. And you get down to the facts. That's how these are done.
Even when the head of the FBI, Kash Patel, is clearly a political appointment and makes very strong political statements, I don't think he has here, but he certainly has in the past on other cases. Do you worry at all that there may be at least an attempt of political influence?
I don't fear that at all with the Bureau and how they do it, because they are compartmentalized. As I say, these investigations are very compartmentalized from anybody who would make statements. Now, normally in a police shooting, it's not unusual for an executive over that agency or that is somehow involved from the federal level to weigh in and talk about the threat to agents on the street. And in this instance, while there's a lot to be discovered and there's a lot that has to be uncovered, and the context has to be carefully constructed along with the evidence that's there, is that it's unequivocal that the agent was in front of the vehicle and that she was moving towards him. So that alone lays a strong case here that the agent had some fear for his life or for his fear of serious bodily injury there. Now, the extent of that, again, has to be broken down through witness statements, the interview of that agent, and videos from all the angles we've seen in the media, but there's likely other videos out there, bystanders, businesses, that will provide additional context here.
Yeah, let's put a freeze frame up from the video that we just showed and has been widely seen, and you took a look at this as well. So in this freeze frame, and of course in the moving video, what people will see is this black or dark SUV beginning to move. Now, we know by now, having seen the video, that this vehicle turns to the right. But we can see an officer kind of on the left-hand side of the freeze frame, and maybe this officer thinks the SUV is headed towards him. But Michael, you know, there are a lot of people who have watched this video and they say, how could this possibly be seen as a legally justified police shooting? What would you say to them?
Well, I say it's typical when there's political influences in these cases. Political people have a bone. Now, they have a bone to pick, or they have a philosophy they're trying to get across. And clearly, the local authorities there, the local political leaders, are extremely anti-ICE. It was a sanctuary city for many years. So I think coming from that, you have to discount those, and you also have to discount those who weigh in and say clearly it's a clean shoot. Because, as I say, there's indicators here of the vehicle moving towards the agent, and he can't necessarily see the wheel turning. All these things have to be put in context. So to weigh in, on a case like this so early in it without access to the facts is somewhat irresponsible. And again, you have to put aside those political voices here, because really what it comes down to, the U.S. Supreme Court standard here is they're going to look at the objective reasonableness of that officer's action at the time he was standing there, and not from the perspective and the benefit of 2020 hindsight that we have after all the evidence comes in. So that's going to be critical to establish that. But it's going to take a lot of work, and it just can't be fought in the public square now and a justification made. For the fairness of the victim here, the young woman who tragically lost her life, and the officer, it has to be completely and fairly looked at in an impartial manner as best we can.
Yeah, I mean, some people have rushed to judgment. No one has rushed further to judgment from what I've seen than the president, vice president, and secretary of Homeland Security. You feel confident the FBI can do its independent investigation. One other thing I want to ask you, I don't know how much training and experience ICE agents have in dealing with situations on the street, and not to blame somebody who, maybe, the ICE agent, but are you surprised that he was standing where he was standing? Like, if you fear that somebody is going to use their vehicle as a weapon, why would you stand in front of that vehicle?
There's a lot of discussion going on now about the tactics used. Clearly, they had some cause there to stop her. And when they demanded she get out of the car, it was likely they were going to take her into custody for interfering with federal operations. So the officer decided to stand in front of the car, probably not the safest place to stand, not necessarily a tactically sound place, but he was there. He made that decision. And because of that decision, she should have not driven or moved that car in such a manner that caused him potentially to fear for his life. When you have a suspect or a subject on the street like that, you have to listen to law enforcement commands. And if she had just stopped, put her hands up, and given in to the commands of the officers, this never would have happened. So we have to also look at that perspective. And when you talked about the rhetoric here, there is rhetoric from the vice president and the president, but you have local political leaders and national Democrat leaders from the Democratic Party absolutely calling this out as murder. That is absolutely irresponsible to pin that type of title on this before an investigation is thoroughly conducted here.
Well, I appreciate the calmness in your tone and the measured approach that you're taking, and we certainly will endeavor here to get different perspectives on this, and I appreciate yours. Michael Harrigan is a retired supervisory FBI agent. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.